Hey, what's going on, guys? It's BrainBean here again. I like to do keyboard comparisons every once in a while, and I feel like we're at a really good place in the market where I don't feel like a lot of the bigger brands are going to be putting anything out in the near future. So I wanted to go ahead and compile together a top 5 keyboard video for you. Now, I know this is an incredibly subjective list, and this, of course, is just my opinion. But just rest assured that all 5 of these keyboards are great top-tier keyboards. You can't really go wrong with any of them. And I simply put them in order in what I think would be the best value for your money. So take that with a grain of salt, but let's go ahead and just jump into the video and take a look at some keyboards. Coming in at the number 5 spot, the Cooler Master Master Keys MK750 is a 104 key mechanical keyboard with an exposed switch design over a really nice looking anodized aluminum backplate. The MK750 was a great blend of minimalistic design while also coming with a lot of the essential extras that I like to see. The MK750 comes with a very nice feeling padded wrist rest, but keep in mind that this wrist rest is a little bit short, so if you have longer hands, your wrists are probably going to end up on the desk, which really is kind of a bummer because that wrist rest really was a nice feeling padded wrist rest, but ultimately just wasn't long enough to be accessible by a lot of different users. The MK750 does come with a set of RGB enabled media keys, but again, keeping with that minimalistic design of the board, it's just the bare essential keys, meaning that you don't get a volume scroll wheel or dedicated mute button. The board also comes with a keycap puller and some extra purple PBT keycaps. The board also uses a removable USB-C cable and has a cable management channel underneath the board. The MK750 is a quality board with sturdy construction, and it uses Cherry MX switches that come in blue, red, or brown switch varieties. Cosmetically, the board has full per key RGB illumination and also has 3 light bars around the sides of the board as well. And I also like that the light bars aren't overly bright, and instead they just kind of add a nice subtle ambience to the board. But keep in mind though that when the wrist rest is on, it does cover up that light bar at the front bottom side of the board. Cooler Master's lighting software is probably the weakest part of this keyboard. It takes a while to change profiles, and there aren't many detailed customization options. However, the preset lighting effects on this board are pretty good. Overall, I'd say the quality of the keyboard and the general aesthetic make the MK750 a great keyboard for under $150. Ultimately, the only place it really falls short is the software, but at the current sale price of $109 on Amazon, it's an amazing board for that price. Also, if you see a keyboard in this video that you want to learn more about, I'll have links down below to my full in-depth reviews of every single one of the keyboards in this video, so you can check those out after this video is done. Coming in at number 4 is the HyperX Alloy Elite RGB. It's the ultimate evolution of their very popular Alloy keyboard. The Alloy Elite RGB is made with a very sturdy steel frame, and just by looking at it, it's pretty clear that they were gunning for the K95 Platinum with this board. Visually, the Alloy Elite RGB looks nice with its 18-zone light bar and open switch design. There's some nice little accents too, like the molded plastic cutouts and the illuminated HyperX logo in the spacebar, just for a little bit of added personality. The HyperX logo at the top right corner is a little bit intrusive, but not overly in your face. And as the name implies, the Elite RGB does have full per key RGB illumination thanks to its Cherry MX RGB switches, which are available in either blue, brown, or red varieties. The lights are controlled via HyperX's Ingenuity software, which is actually pretty good. It's not as good as the top tier softwares, but it comes pretty close, and it does allow you to layer up to 2 effects for your own custom profiles. As for features, the Alloy Elite RGB has RGB enabled media keys with a plastic volume scroll wheel, dedicated keys for changing profiles, brightness, and game mode, a rather flimsy and not that great wrist rest that honestly feels like it should be on a much cheaper keyboard, and a set of ABS metallic keycaps with a keycap puller. And like I mentioned, the Elite is a pretty heavy board due to its steel frame construction, but that also makes it have a little bit better feeling of quality. It just feels like a really rugged and durable board. Overall, the HyperX Alloy Elite RGB does have a little bit of its own aesthetic while borrowing a lot of features and some of its look from the K95 Platinum, and currently they are both the same price at $169.99, so if you're just looking for a keyboard with a lot of features, I would personally recommend the K95 Platinum still if they are the same price. But otherwise, the Alloy Elite RGB is a great looking board, and it does have a little bit of its own flavor as well. Logitech came out swinging for the fences this year with both new keyboards and 2 new switches. The G513 is by far one of my favorite keyboards of the year, and it made me really happy to see Logitech continue to get their keyboards back on track by including a lot of the things that I expect to see in a flagship line. The G513 Carbon comes with a beautiful backplate that has that classic exposed switch design. Just keep in mind that if you go with the Roamer G versions, you won't see any underglow from underneath those keys. Aesthetically, the G513 is about as clean as it gets and is only sporting a small G logo at the top right corner of the board. In terms of switches, the G513 is offered in the classic Roamer G tactiles, which is one of my favorite switches, their new linear Roamer Gs, and the not as awesome Clicky GX Blue, which is a Kale branded switch. In terms of extras, the G513 comes with one of the best wrist rests that I've seen yet. It's nicely padded and long enough to accommodate any hand size comfortably. It also comes with a set of angled keycaps like the ones that came on the Orion Spark once upon a time, and there's a USB pass-through as well. Unfortunately, that minimalistic design means that the board does not have any dedicated macro or media keys, but it does have media control by way of the function key. With the improvements to Logitech's lighting software and the vibrance of the Roamer G switches, which are the only switches that I'd recommend on these boards anyways, the G513 is a great balance of clean aesthetics with a pop of RGB that is sure to look snazzy on any desk. For its current price of $130, it's by far one of the best values out there, especially when considering the overall quality and the amount of extras that you get. So I'm going to stop the video right here and just give you guys a little disclaimer. When it came to choosing the top 2 and really figuring out which one ultimately was going to take that top spot, it was not an easy decision. There are so many factors that go into deciding what makes a great keyboard, and both of these are fantastic. It really boiled down to me which one I thought pushes gaming keyboards in an area that I'm excited to see where it's going to go, kind of innovates a little bit. So with that, let's go ahead and move on and you'll see what I'm talking about. For the number 2 spot, we have the K70 Mark.2 and also the K95 Platinum, but that's because they're basically the same keyboard with some minor variations. The K70 Mark.2 is a high quality keyboard, but there are a few things that felt like they could have been a little bit better, which is ultimately what made it come in at the number 2 spot instead of taking the number 1. For example, the wrist rest isn't the best quality, and I really would have liked if it would have been elevated just a little bit more like the one on the K95 Platinum, especially considering most of the features of the Mark II are taken directly from that board. The keyboard does have a ton of great extras like the included textured keycap sets and keycap puller, and coming over to the K70 from the K95 Platinum are the RGB media keys with metal volume scroll wheel, the RGB Corsair logo, the onboard memory with dedicated buttons for profile switching, brightness, and gaming mode, and the built-in cable routing management system at the bottom of the board. The K70 Mark II still sports the USB pass-through from previous versions. It's also important to note that the K70 Mark II comes in 2 versions. The regular version comes in all black, and it offers 5 different switch varieties. You can get it in Cherry MX Blue, Brown, Red, Speed, and for the first time in the K70 lineup, the Cherry MX Silent switch. There's also the Special Edition, which is what you see here. The main differences being that the Special Edition has the silver top plate and comes with those white PBT keycaps, which is a huge upgrade. However, it only comes in Cherry MX Speed switches, which I'm personally not a huge fan of. I really wish that Corsair could have just made the board available in both color schemes and offered black PBT keycaps on the black keyboard and the white PBT keycaps with the white and silver, especially since they already sell black and white PBT keycaps separately anyways. This way everybody could have gotten the switches and the board aesthetic that they want. Still, if you like linear switches, the Special Edition is definitely the way to go, because with the PBT keycaps, it's by far a better value. But it kind of sucks for those of us that like tactile switches and have to shell out much more cash for PBT keycaps after the fact, which is why I include the K95 Platinum on this list, but we'll get to that in just a second. My biggest gripe with the K70 Mark II is the stabilizers. They're just awful. The spacebar in particular is super rattly, even after lubing it up and putting on some O-rings. I really hope Corsair does something about this in their future boards, especially since this isn't a new issue. I mean, we've been complaining about this for years. I also included the K95 Platinum because the K70 Mark II has many similarities, but the K95 Platinum still gives more features. It has a better wrist rest, dedicated macro keys, and the iconic light bar at the top of the board. Now currently they're offered at the same price on Amazon. The K95 Platinum is offered in Cherry MX Browns and Speeds only, so keep that in mind. But if you do like one of those switch types, it's worth considering if you want those extras. Either way you slice it, these are both exceptional keyboards. That brings us to number 1, the Razer Huntsman Elite. The Huntsman Elite elevates Razer's keyboard lineup by including many of the extras and changes to the overall design that users have been asking for. Aesthetically, the Huntsman Elite is a combination of clean design married with maximum RGB capability. It's made up of a fingerprint-resistant metal backplate and has an exposed switch design. Keeping with the clean look of the board, it's void of any branding, which is always nice, and the footprint of the board is no bigger than it has to be. For the lighting of the board, it has full per-key RGB illumination, and it has underglow around the entire keyboard and also the wrist rest for a total of 168 unique lighting zones, making it the most robust RGB experience in a keyboard to date, and when paired with Razer Synapse, makes for a great overall lighting experience. Also introduced with the Huntsman line is the new optomechanical switch. This optical switch, based on A4Tech's design, uses stabilizers baked into each switch that makes for an ultra-solid experience with zero key wobble. Currently, the optomechanical switch is only offered in a clicky version, and I really hope that they expand these switches to have a tactile and linear version to mirror their current conventional mechanical switches, as I personally don't love the clicky switches, but certainly for those who do, it's a great responsive switch. As for the extras, the Huntsman Elite comes with a nice pillowy wrist rest with that RGB that we talked about. And one cool aspect of the Huntsman Elite is that the wrist rest attaches via pogo pins, which opens up the possibility of future accessories being connected at a later time. Because the pins use a second USB connector, this does mean that there's no USB pass-through, however. The Huntsman Elite also has dedicated media keys with a digital dial for adjusting volume or binding in Synapse to control in-game or software functions. The only real complaints with this board are the lack of dedicated macro keys and the fact that they still don't include a keycap puller, and the lack of switch options is a little bit of a bummer. Other than that, it's a premium keyboard that commands a premium price. Still, for $200, if you want a solid gaming keyboard with a ton of options, it's a great buy. Well, that's it for the comparison, guys. Let me know in those comments down below which one of these keyboards is your favorite, or maybe in your opinion I got it totally wrong. Let me know in those comments which one you would have chosen or what you would have put in this list. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, you can give it a like to show your support, and if you're new here on the channel, I'd love to see you subscribe, as I've got a lot more videos coming for you in the near future. You can also follow me on Twitter at BrainBean Gaming to stay up to date with what's going on with the channel. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.